I'm Brad Halliday, lead engineer and founder of Medius.Re. Let's take the next few minutes together and look at an overview of how to use Medius.Re. The first thing you're going to see when you come to your Auburn University site is you're going to be able to select a product. Multiple products you have are peanuts and cotton. Let's go ahead and let's start with peanuts. So as we get to the dashboard, you're going to be able to easily see there are several things that you can do to get you information quickly. The first thing you might be interested in is I want to look for a particular variety. So let's say I'm interested in the Georgia 12Y variety. Just go ahead and type what you know of the variety and then select it from the list. You'll be presented with an overview summary where you will see the locations where that variety has been tried and the years in which data is available. And if there is any summary information available from a paragraph standpoint, you'll see a description here and then a link to a data sheet if that's available as well as some additional information found below. The next tab you're going to see is trials, and here is a high-level overview of the particular variety broken down between OVT and on-farm. So as you scan down through here, you can see a high-level average of this variety across all trial sites. And if I wanted to know more about the breakdown of this yield, I can just go ahead and click here and expand that out, and now I can see those averages that make up, or those values that make up the average here for yield. So that's a quick way to get a high-level view of a particular variety. Now let's go ahead and start finding varieties based on specific criteria. So I'm going to go to Query Variety here. And let's look for peanuts from 2018 to 2020. And I'm interested in finding a variety that first has a yield, and I want that yield to be greater than 3,000 pounds per acre. But I'm also interested in making sure that my dig days are, let's go less than 140. I want something a little bit more. Make sure I'm on the earlier side there. So then also I'm really interested in making sure my TSMK percentage is high because then I'm going to improve my output. It improves my efficiencies. So let's say I want something that is greater than 70%. Go ahead and click on search, and now we're going to get our result list here of any varieties that they have met this criteria in a trial. So I'm not interested in these top two. There's only single data records available for them. It's not going to really help me to look at that. And that's going to leave me with 9 selected varieties remaining here that have multi-year data. So now that I have those 9 varieties selected, I'm going to go ahead and click on compare. That's going to bring us over to the compare page, where now we can look at all of those varieties side by side and compare the data accordingly. So I can see here that I've got these ranges of yields and TSMK values and all the other values that might be important to me. And so you can tell that there's different varieties here, or different number of variety records for each variety, meaning that some of these varieties were tried in more locations over a longer period of time. And that just gives you some indication to the importance of these different averages. So like I could before, I can go ahead and click on that value and I can see the breakdown. I can see all 6 of those variety records that are available for the Georgia Greener. And if I wanted to be able to do that for the entire set, if I just click on the data field name over here, that will allow me to see the breakdown of all the averages for every variety that's included in my comparison. So as you're going to see, there's going to be some blank spots in here where variety wasn't included in a certain trial. If you're interested in being able to compare this where the varieties were all in the same trial, that's called correlated data. And you can turn correlated data on by coming up here to the top. So now what you see is I'm only looking at data where all of these varieties that I currently have selected existed in the exact same trial. And that's called correlated data here at the top. And you can turn that on or you can turn that off. And then if you're interested in taking all of this information and doing more with it, you can either copy that link and send it to somebody. You can download the data as an Excel sheet. That Excel sheet will have first this exact view that you're looking at here of the summary, but then it'll also have in a second tab all of the detailed data that makes up these averages. And then the last option you would have here is to be able to export or save this view as an image. It will take this table and turn it into an image that you can use in a presentation or another report. So that is a quick kind of overview of how to find variety by certain parameters. But let's actually go back to the dashboard, and we're going to switch over now to cotton. So I can get that to cotton in several different ways. I can click on peanuts here or peanuts up here, or I can come straight over here to cotton. But let's go ahead and click on peanuts and switch over to cotton. So now I'm looking at the same dashboard setup that I had before with peanuts, but I'm now only looking at cotton information. So I have recently searched for cotton data, latest cotton trials that are available, or any recent documents that have been uploaded in relation to cotton. And then I can do a query, jump to comparison, trials, or analytics. Let's go ahead and look at cotton trials here. And you can see that my trial years are set to 2020. It's going to give me a list of all of the trials that were conducted in 2020 for cotton. So all you would have to do is just select these trials over here, and it's going to fill in all that trial information for you. So you can scroll on down through. You can do sorting if we wanted to sort by our lint yield to see who had the highest lint yield. You could see that by doing that sorting there. The other interesting thing that you will see over here is if you see this little weather data icon, that's going to tell you that there is weather data available for that trial. We are currently in the process of continuing to pull in more and more weather data for you, but as that becomes available, you'll start seeing these icons here by the trial. So if I click on weather data, what I'm going to see here is I have the option. Let's go ahead and turn that off. I'm looking at currently min air temperature, but I'm going to go ahead and select the max air temperature. And it's going to start here at my planting date and go all the way to my harvest date here for me. So I can see what the max temperature was on a specific day throughout the entire trial. Now, if I wanted to add in averages to that, as you saw earlier, I can go here to average years. Let's pull in 3 years worth of data. And now what I can see is my current maximum weather or maximum air temperature over top of what was my 3-year average. So I can see how the weather this year compared to previous years. And if I wanted to add an additional access to that, I can select precipitation here. And now I can see when these different rain events occurred and what the temperature was. And that might give me some indication into the different performances that I got out of varieties for a particular trial. I can then come here to the weather data tab and be able to scroll down through and see all the detail of everything that is available there for the weather. Okay, let's stick within cotton, but now we're going to look at analytics. And analytics is really cool because it gives you an opportunity to compare varieties across both time and space in a really easy method. So what we're looking at here, and I've already selected these 2 data fields to start, lint yield and lint turnout. And what I'm going to do is I now have the option to look at all the varieties that are available in trial year 2020 across all of these different trial locations. And you can see they're grouped. You have short season, full season, you have dry and irrigated for each one of these research stations, as well as the on-farm information. And then here at the end, I've got my 2020 averages, as well as any 3-year averages where a variety has existed across multiple years. And you can change that multiple years by coming up here into analytics settings and changing the multi-year average right there. But what I can see here in this multi-year average is you have these Y and these L values. So the Y is going to be the number of years, and the L is going to be the number of locations that that data represents. So for example, in this average that I'm looking at here, for the top variety of 1204, that was only 1 year and averaged across a total of 15 locations. However, if I come down here to this entry of 1402, that is, I have data available across 3 years and 64 locations. So this gives you an indication as to how much data has been collected and what's represented in that multi-year average that you're looking at. So let's go ahead and come back here and let's pare this data down a little bit before I talk about what all of these colors mean. So we're looking at a lot of data here, but I'm only interested in irrigated data. So I'm going to come up here to Filter, and I'm going to select a data field, and that data field is going to be Environment. And I'm going to set my environment to be irrigated, and then go ahead and click on Filter. So now you go ahead and hide that. So what we're looking at here now is I'm only seeing the irrigated trial locations, and I've taken the dry ones out. And again, you still see your 2020 averages and your 3-year averages, but as you can see by our represented Y and L values that we've lost some of those locations, right? Because we took the dry out of there. So what am I looking at now? I'm just going to go with a 2020 average, and we're going to sort by that. And I'm going to click on this total data field, and now I'm sorting high to low. So what you're seeing here is anything that is green is going to be the maximum value in that trial set or in that column. And anything that is shaded blue is above average. And above average is calculated by using standard deviation. If you're not familiar with standard deviation, we utilize that to help determine how far away something is from the mean, and by calculating what are called z-scores. So we shade it based on your z-score. So anything that is above the mean is shaded in blue, and anything below is shaded in yellow, and then your min value here is red. So when you see red around here, that means that's the bottom value, the minimum value in the set. And when you see a green, that means that is the maximum value in the set. So it gives you some indication of how a variety is going to be performing relative to the mean in the trial that it was a part of. So this gives you a really good way to get a performance of a variety, again, across both time, right? We can have multi-year averages here, as well as space. So each one of these trial locations or grouped together in these trials. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to sort by my multi-year average here, and this will get us the top varieties for lint yield based on looking at multi-year data for irrigated across all of our locations. Now we've also pulled in lint turnout, and I can sort that the same way, where I'm looking at trying to get the maximum turnout percentage. And again, we're looking at data the same as we did, but they're going to be, the list of varieties are probably sorted a little differently, because you might get a high yielding variety that might not have the turnout percentage that you're looking for. So how do we take advantage of looking at both lint yield and lint turnout to get ourselves this variety that's going to be our top performer? Well, that's where total score averages comes into play. So what I'm looking at now is I've taken those z-scores that were calculated for both lint yield and lint turnout, and I've averaged them. You can adjust that weight if you want to, but by default there's a 1-to-1 average. And that is now giving me this new score that represents that variety across multiple data fields, across multiple locations, and across multiple years, simplified down to a single score that I can then do a comparison on and be able to select the varieties that are my top performers based on the data fields that I'm interested in. So for example, I'm interested in, let's say, these top 5 varieties here. I can go ahead and select those because they're the best ones that I have. And then I can come up here to compare, and this takes us right back to compare that we saw before. And so now I'm looking at, again, my lint yield, lint turnout, any of these other data fields. I can now easily compare these varieties and look at them side by side to try to determine what's going to be the best variety for me. A couple more things. Let's jump over now to Data Center, and we'll take a quick look at how you can use Data Center to generate a graph to help be able to understand or represent data. So let's go ahead with Peanuts. Back to Peanuts now, and I'm just going to select these 2 trials, this dry and this irrigated trial. And then I'm going to go over here to data fields, and sure, we can just pull all the data fields in now. And then I'm just going to click up here to say reload the data. So now I have all the data pulled in for me across those two trials in this raw spreadsheet form. And now what I can do is I can come up here to charts, and we're going to set our series to be the trial because I want to do a comparison between dry and irrigated. And we'll set our our x-axis to variety. And then I'm going to set my y-axis here to yield. And if you can't find a data field that you're looking for, just go ahead and search for that. All right, so here I am. I now have my bar chart that is showing me my comparison between irrigated and non-irrigated yield data for a particular variety at the same location. So this is pretty handy to be able to do a comparison. If I go back here to Data Center, I can actually, if I wanted to, resort this data by just clicking on any one of these headers. So let's go ahead and sort by variety and then go back to charts. And you'll notice that now my chart is sorted in alphabetical order. You have additional options here. You can come into your options, and if we go back to thinking about when we were asking for varieties that were over 3,000 pounds per acre, we're looking good here because all of these varieties have exceeded that. But let's say you had a target of 5,000. That was what you wanted to represent as your target. We can go ahead here and turn targets on, and then I'm going to put in 5,000, and that'll draw a nice line across here. So this is really handy if you're trying to represent, hey, I'm interested in any variety that's performed above this or below this, and this target line will give you the option to do that. And you can come in here and you can turn on values if you need to be able to see the different values there and adjust those. If you're interested in showing what an average would look like, you can do that as well. You can even adjust right here within the mode, being able to sort by the average, since you can't do that in the data center view. But you could sort by the average ascending or descending so that you could easily represent who your top performers are, or return to the way that you had it sorted based on looking at your data center set previously. So that's a high level of, hey, let's generate some charts that are beneficial for us, and you have the option to export that as an image, and then you can include that in any report that you might have. So that's a high level view of a few of the things that you can do within Medius.Re. If you would have any more questions or anything that you want to ask about how to do something, feel free to reach out to us. You can email support@mediusag.com, or if you want to reach out to me personally, my email address is brad, B-R-A-D, @mediusag.com.